Welcome to Season 1, Episode 39 of Digital Dissection, a nerd podcast where we take a closer and possibly unnecessary look at some of our favorite properties. Today, we visit the Netflix anime adaptation of Castlevania. Series spoilers are ahead, so you've been warned. But before we take out our whips, holy water, magical swords, and place blame on one of us for breaking the castle,
We are Chelsea, Joe, and Mark. Three friends are trying to end Dracula's reign of terror and bringing our love for our favorite properties to your ears. If somehow you forgot how to find the Belmont Keep and ended up here instead, why not try looking for us on all major podcast platforms by typing in Digital Dissection, a nerd podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our blog, where we write stuff. And if you like this show, leave us a review. Tell us what you think by emailing digitaldissectionpodcast@gmail.com.
Sorry, I don't know what to do with my hair tonight. I was really lazy today, and I didn't do I usually involve a blow dryer in this production, but today I'm just I'm messing it up and I'm going to work. And
Just shave it, man.
I could, but now I have a reputation at work because I had a messy look going on, and then with my I don't know what kind of a jacket I have. It's a nice just wool lined jacket. It's got a wool collar, and then I was wearing my sunglasses out for recess studio today, and one of my 11th graders came to me and she's like, "Mr. V, you look like the stereotypical dad that shows up only on the weekends or for 5 minutes in a rom-com and then you never see him again."
Oh, no.
And I'm like, "Oh, so I'm the deadbeat dad?" She's like, "Yeah, pretty much." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I went to play Foursquare with him, and I cut in line in front of one of the kids. He's like, "Mr. V, it's my turn." I'm like, "It is my weekend with you, and I'm going to be here."
Nice.
And then I played, and then everyone laughed,
Nice.
and we went inside. It was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so on the most awkward introduction ever to the show, talking Castlevania this week. This is probably one of the more recent covers we've done, as in this show just wrapped up a little while ago and we're covering it, as opposed to this show wrapped up years ago and we're talking about it today.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of up there with when we covered the Justice League Snyder Cut. We tend to not dial that far back.
Yeah.
or we don't cut too close to the present day.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. We do dial fairly far back because I believe one time we dialed all the way back to what?
5,000 years ago, I think.
Yeah, we did. We went what was it? Ancient India.
The Mahabharata.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, well, although what we're talking about today, that story does take place in the 15th century. So, that is old.
Yeah. And speaking of old, that's how I feel looking back to my first interactions with Castlevania, because it wasn't as a TV show, it was as a Nintendo entertainment system game.
Absolutely.
I wasn't actually doing anything as a person yet in 1987, but I was there.
Yep. You were around. You did things because your parents brought you there, and therefore it's an experience. We want him to have the experience or bringing him with, despite the fact he'll remember none of it. But that's Castlevania, because it came out in 87. And how far did we actually get with these games? How far into the Castlevania series did we play?
Well, I don't know if this was because of my parents being afraid of witchcraft, wizardry, the standard horror icons. But we didn't actually have Castlevania. My friends had Castlevania.
There we go.
But we were doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Ghostbusters games, the Donkey Kong Jr., all that stuff. We were playing all of the games that for the time were flagship. Castlevania, I think, was just a little too quote unquote violent, I think, for my parents, and a little too, I don't know, a little too adult. I'm not sure how to
Yeah,
say it.
a little bit. I mean, like you said, there's witchcraft, there are demons, there are monsters abound.
Yeah.
And your dude is carrying around a whip, and you don't know if that's for self-defense or because someone calls him daddy.
Yeah, and this is way before Rihanna, so it's not like we had, a whole lot of folks talking about chains and whips and whether or
No,
not they excite the person or not.
we
So
didn't. We assumed it was either because you owned cattle or you got kinky.
yeah.
But that was Simon Belmont in that first game. And, like, I know this is a game definitely I also was another one I did not own, probably for the same reasons, as your parents laid out. But, yeah, like, I borrowed it from friends. Didn't get far, never got to Dracula, I can
Oh
guarantee you that.
God.
Fucking hell, never got to Dracula.
uh, honestly, I'd feel
Mhm.
like a baby calf, in front of in front of a firing squad, because that
Mhm.
game was just tough.
It was. It was very tough. And I
Yeah.
think I don't know if, like, Castlevania has, like, a reputation for being tough, but fucking not easy. Not easy at all. And things that I do remember is having, like, the little beasties that, like, fly in, like, this up and down wave, like, pattern, and they fly fucking fast, and they're hard to hit with a whip. They
Yeah.
just are.
Oh yeah.
And you get hit and your guy, like, does, like, the double dragon, like, bounce back 5 feet. So if you're
Yeah.
jumping from platform to platform, one of those guys bumps you, it only takes away 1 health, but you're falling off that platform straight to your doom.
Yep, that bitch is
Yep,
dead. Or I
you're
should say
gone.
that Belmont is dead.
That
Yeah.
Belmont is dead. And speaking of Belmonts, this is the family that these games basically center around, even to like the modern or the more modern ones. It's always involving a Belmont or at least a descendant of the Belmonts whose last name may be changed, but it is specifically mentioned that they are going to be descendants of a Belmont. When it comes to the Castlevania TV show, it's actually not modeled after the first Castlevania game, but the third, called Dracula's Curse, which they did take some artistic liberty with from the original game. One of them was definitely Dracula himself. So, Mark, you've seen the series, right? Or at least most of it.
Yeah, so far I'm only I've only watched up to the end of season 3.
Okay. Which honestly, like, again, that's most of it. Like,
Yeah,
seasons 1 and 2 and 3, there's only 4
I
seasons
know.
of it. It
I
does
know.
it does end,
I always
sadly after 4.
I always do it to people where they're like, it's like, "Hey, how many seasons of this show have you, or how much of this show have you watched?" And if I know the exact episode
Mhm.
count, I'll be like, it's like, "Yeah, I'm only up to like 128 episodes." And they're like, "That's the whole
That's the
thing."
whole thing, man.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I
but
know what I'm doing.
haven't seen that finale yet, man, so don't
Yeah.
I'll get there, though.
Don't you ruin that for me. Yeah, I watched 3 seasons of the
Mhm.
show, and mostly because we talked about covering it, and I'm like,
Uh, Gotta do
I
some
need
homework.
I need to, yeah, I gotta put my nose to the grindstone. So, yeah, I
Mhm.
watched through 3 seasons of it, yeah.
Well, we get to Dracula. He is he's not the first character we see in the show, but he is there very, very early. And the show's main producer, and I'm probably gonna get this wrong. I know he is, believe he's, I believe he's Indian, and I don't know like what part of India, but it's Adi Shankar
Mhm.
is the
Yep.
executive producer of the show. And basically, his idea of Dracula is different than we get in the original video game. Have you either when I say original game, I mean Dracula's Curse, what the series is based off of. So have you ever played Castlevania 3
No, actually, I
in your
have
life?
not. I would love to know a little
Okay.
bit more about this curse.
So this is how it opens up. You get this nice crawl. It says during the 15th century Europe, there lived a person named Dracula. A person, not a vampire, but a person named Dracula. He practiced sorcery in order to create a bad world filled with evil.
So he's making pop music?
Yeah, pop music the whole way
Oh
around.
god.
And a splash of ska.
Mm.
And he began taking over the continent of Europe, changing the countries from good to bad.
Changing them from good to bad.
Good to bad. Yep. So, which I'm guessing this was like someone was translating this from the original Japanese game, and they're like, fucking hell, like, it's late. I've been at this for a long time. Let's just throw something out there. But basically, the Dracula we get in this game is a villain for the sake of being a villain. He is a bad guy just because he wants to fill the world with evil and turn the good people bad. That's his literal aim in this entire video game. Just make the good people bad. That's all.
But that's so subjective, you know?
I know,
Like,
right?
is he just like, are these people suddenly like, just getting tattoos and piercings, or are they like kicking kittens and, not signaling when they merge lanes? Like, what's bad mean?
We don't know. But looking off of that, we had our executive producer, Addy, here, knew that it had to be changed. If you went with that, Dracula was going to be some cartoony villain. But he said he thinks it's very important to get across that villains in a story are really the heroes of their own narrative. And that's the Dracula that we get in the anime. Because, spoiler alert ahead, if you haven't gotten through the first episode of this yet, the church does kill Dracula's wife. That is a rough start. And then not even they kill it. It's not like, oh, hey, you robbed someone and we have to carry out the law. I hate it. This is the rules. We don't make them. We just work here, ma'am. We just work here. It's not that. It is very much you're making sick people healthy, and you're not doing it through prayer. You must be a witch. And they burn her. This makes Dracula quite mad. And he vows his revenge, not just on the church, but all of humanity, for they have wronged him by taking his wife. So you get this idea that Dracula is crazed, he is angry, but he's got decent motivation this time. I'm not going to say justified. Maybe it was justified if maybe you just killed the bishop that did this. Like, that would make sense to me. But he's like, nah, man, all the humans got to go. Just have to be gone.
Yeah. And I mean, they definitely don't skimp on the violence in getting there, because our friend Adi, of course, Joe, you know who he's an executive producer for, right?
Oh, Game of Thrones. Was
Dread.
it? Dread. Oh my God, he was a Dread. Even better.
Yeah.
Holy shit, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I just went from 6 p.m. to midnight off that.
I mean, it's the truth though. I mean, that was one of the first things that I noticed. I mean, when you're watching anime, you're expecting, violence to be over the top. Okay? Oh yeah. Like it's just okay. It's fine. Things move fast. Bones break. Blood's everywhere. But this is like Tarantino does anime.
Huge. Yeah. I believe Adi actually says the series is violent as fuck in a quote.
Right. No other way to describe it, because I mean, when people are taking bites out of things, there's just blood gushing all over. I mean, yeah, it is brutal violence, which I think actually what kind of pulled me in. I mean, I'm not me, I'm not an anime first kind of guy.
No, that you are not.
Yeah. And I think that's what is a very big draw for people here. Like, you're going to be surprised by just how metal this series is. Sorry to distract from what you mentioned about, Dracula's war on humanity here.
Oh, no. This is the perfect. I mean, his war on humanity is pretty metal. Especially when you figure out like exactly how he raises like his army. And it's through 2 humans who are called Forge Masters, which is a very deceptive title.
Really is. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's where the beauty of the term is, right? It's you think Forge Master, you think of a dwarven dude with like a 3-foot beard, just hammering until the late hours of the night, but. Well, I guess they're probably still up late. I'm not sure. They probably get their 8 hours, Joe. Being a Forge Master is not a... Yeah.
I mean, It's probably a union job at the very least.
Yeah, right.
Like that thing's got to be union.
Hey, Drac, I got my 15 here.
Got to punch out for the day,
Yeah,
or you're paying me double.
and Dracula, of course, he's wearing a pair of overalls. He's just like, you know what? Can't touch it. I respect it.
Rules.
Yep. You get on your break.
Yeah, so we have this change and shift from the video game of a villain for the sake of being a villain to a man who is like they don't mince words in this. Like when we're first introduced to Dracula, and he knows exactly what he is when we first see him too. He's like, no, I'm Dracula, Vlad Dracula motherfucking Tepes. I'm not a good person.
He is,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, we're led to believe that in marrying a human woman,
Mm-hmm.
that he is gaining some, or at least he's we're moving one stone from like evil asshole to the other side of the scale to he's beginning to understand.
Yes.
And even if it's not a full tilt yet, like it's a little bit starting to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what was hard for me coming into this, and it's not that I didn't like this, it was just like it's hard to watch, is that you're like, at first, you may not even want to hate Dracula.
No.
Yeah, like you see this dude that you've seen depicted in so many other media types, and like, and you're used to him just being evil and hating humanity, and there's all these myriad of reasons. But in this one, yeah, Dracula feels like he shouldn't be the bad guy at first.
Yeah.
And
completely.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what my takeaway was. I'm like, okay, so they just 86'd his wife, who, I mean, from everything I can tell, he seems to like her quite a bit.
He did. He was a fan.
Yeah. and she gets murdered by the church. And the other part of it that I found interesting was that it seemed like there was some uneven footing with the church and the people of Wallachia, the fictional,
European nation. Yeah.
Yeah, we're assuming
because it is still Europe. Yeah.
And so like there's like uneven footing between, and I'm going to simplify this for folks that maybe haven't seen this. There's the church, then there's like actual magic users, right? And there's like there's definitely disagreement between the factions and who supports who, but I mean the church seems to have a little more control.
Yep.
Right. So when they're doing these things, at first I'm like, I'm trying to figure out who I should not be behind. And I was actually more behind the magic users in the church, or magic users in Dracula, than I was the church.
Absolutely. And especially like the line that really cements that for me is the scene where Dracula confronts the bishop who just burned his wife to death.
Yeah.
And Dracula appears in a rather dramatic form without him physically being there.
Yeah.
And he's like saying like, why would you do this? Like, she did nothing wrong. She's a doctor. She's trying to help you. How horrible. And they basically say that Dracula is the devil, and the devil is like a liar, and he's not real, and this is all just a vision. And Dracula fires back with, you kill my wife, and then you go ahead and say, don't even exist?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you people? Oh my God. And he's like, yeah, these guys are assholes. Fuck them. Holy shit. Like, how big of a slap in the face is that? Seriously. They burn your wife to the stake. They take everything from you. And then they just claim that you are a figment of their imagination.
Yeah, they're not going to get a Christmas card.
No,
behaving that
definitely
way.
not a Christmas card. No, not at all. But so then to move our narrative forward, we start meeting some of these other players in our world here. Like you'd mentioned, a group of magic users. They show up, I think, in the second or third episode, and they're called the Speakers.
Yes,
which
the Speakers
is interesting. This is another deviation that our showrunners and writers took from the original series, because the speaker that we are going to be with the most, Saifa Belnades, is in the original video game. Like the speakers are magic users through the church. So They're the same. They're basically a kind of like a special forces entity of what's going on. But they figured because they have basically this immediate like polarization where the church is burning Dracula's wife to death. Then you meet Trevor Belmont, who is again from this line of Belmonts, who you find out were excommunicated by the church because basically the church felt that the Belmonts were too powerful, basically superhuman beings, because how are they killing these monsters and vampires? And they're not God, or they're not the church themselves. They must be something else. So the family gets kicked out of the church. So they thought like because of the relationship um, that Sypha and Trevor would have, that the fact that they just, even get along would be odd if she was a member of the church.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
Mhm.
with the narrative that they were painting here, I mean, when you come to find out that the Belmonts weren't like supernatural beings, they really just had the University of Phoenix dedicated to vampire killing
Very
in their
true.
house.
Mhm.
That's
I
pretty
mean,
much what they got.
they accredit themselves, which, at least to their credit, they did a good job at accrediting themselves.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
you could go somewhere with a Belmont degree.
Well, and I think that was what they did a good job of
Mhm.
with Castlevania because, like you've mentioned, we've got some different elements of it, even though
Mhm.
there's some familiarity with ties to the game. Um, but for me, it had been a while since I had even really played much Castlevania. The only things I
Mhm.
really knew was that yep, Dracula's usually the bad guy,
Yep.
and then Alucard, which is just Dracula but backwards.
Backwards.
That's his
Yeah,
son.
it's a son,
It's
he's
like
in there.
yep.
Mhm.
So I got that part figured out. I remember that stuff. I think what was nice about this was that yeah, the Belmonts were largely gone,
Mhm.
and so when you're introduced to this emerging hellscape, it's not a hellscape yet, but
Not
like
yet. It's getting there.
it's getting there. It's getting there.
Soon.
Yeah, it's getting there. But
Mhm.
like so when things start going bad, and then you see the Belmont line is still there.
Mhm.
You're like, wow, so much bad shit's already happened,
Mhm.
and the Belmonts are kind of a wild card.
Yep.
So for me, this is a tonal choice from the show that I actually really enjoyed, just as much as I kind of had an issue with was
Mhm.
this show. If you've ever done weight training where they have like a half sphere on a board, okay,
Mhm.
it's a workout piece that you use to build your ankle strength, okay, and the whole point of it is that it never is truly balanced. It keeps moving back and forth. You
Mhm.
have to provide the balance, right? That's what this show feels like because of its score and its music. Like you never feel like you could ever be comfortable watching this show.
Mhm.
Like there's something that's just something bad's gonna happen, or it's just meant to keep you like uneasy the
Yep.
entire time. I mean, that's what I got. I was just
Mhm.
watching it, I went into it fresh. I had no idea what to expect, and I'm just listening to the music, and I'm like, man, like I'm liking the show,
Mhm.
but I'm also not liking the show because of the uneasiness. Like, oh
Yeah,
my
you're
god.
on edge, like, fucking anything could happen, like, they could be walking down a hallway and some asshole around the corner and, like, smack him with a big stone hammer.
Oh, dude,
Like anything.
it's at
Mhm.
any time. It really
Oh.
I've got to tip my hat to them on that because
Mhm.
um even when you're first introduced to Trevor Belmont,
Mhm.
he's basically a drunk in a bar
Yep.
and within moments they find out he's a Belmont.
Yep. Like,
They
right away,
see
they
his
they see the
yeah,
crest. You're like, "Oh."
yeah.
It's basically, like, think of, like, the equivalent of fucking, I think of, like, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. "Oh, he must be royalty. How do you know? He's the only one not covered in shit."
Yes,
It's because
yes.
Belmont's clothes are nice, more or less. He's got nice clothes, he's got a noticeable crest, but
And
on
a
that note,
giant bag of money, but
giant, big old bag of money, like,
yeah,
no one has that in those parts
yeah.
of Eastern Europe. But, um, when you look at Trevor Belmont and the rest of, like, the characters in the show, one, well casted, well voice acted, because the man
Mm,
who voices our Belmont here, none other than the king under the mountain himself, Richard
yes,
Armitage, Thorin.
yes.
Yes.
Thorin Oakenshield himself.
Yes. And the voice that he uses for Trevor is just so, I think it's fucking fun. It's this gravelly, laissez-faire.
Yeah.
Basically, if Batman was drunk and didn't give a fuck, that's Trevor Belmont's voice.
I was gonna say if you took Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and you maybe gave him, some muscle relaxers, like that. Yeah, that's Trevor Belmont to me. He's I think the voice cast is a very big part of this. I mean, I know that's obvious because it's animation and you need to have a solid voice cast, but they really do, man. I thought that that Armitage was great, and it actually took me a little bit to realize it was him at first. Because of the fact that his voice is a little bit different than what I've been able to recognize him as. But what I actually really liked about this was Peter Stormare. Peter Stormare is like, if you've ever seen an action movie from let's say from pretty much the early 90s until the mid 2000s, he was probably going to be in it.
Or if maybe you didn't want to close your eyes, you didn't want to fall asleep because you didn't want to miss a thing.
Yes.
Because the world was going to end and there was a crazy Russian on a space station who was going to help you prevent that from happening.
Precisely.
Or maybe you had a deal to make with the devil and your name is John Constantine.
I was going to say, you get
Peter Stormare
as so many options.
So many. And his character Godbrand in here is a vampire Viking.
Yeah.
And holy fuck, is he fun. Fun character. Like, I feel like we're supposed to hate him more than we do because I don't hate him.
Well, and that's definitely something we should bring up before we even get into the animation, because we can spend some time there. I do want to talk about the fact that when you mention they're not evil for the sake of being evil, there is much more political flair here than anything else. Because you quickly find out that, once again, vampires aren't just here to dominate humanity. Like, they're actually fighting more with themselves than anything.
Completely. Especially when you get into season 4. That's really brought up heavily with Carmilla. Exactly what she's had to fight for to get her kingdom and what to fight for after she's had it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I really took away from it, which I think even kind of knocked me off balance, not just from the horror aspect, but then looking at the political intrigue of what's happening here. So we mentioned, some of the high-ranking vampires. Yeah, they seem to be all kind of vying for power, but really the core focus here is this war within Dracula himself. And I had a hard time following this, okay? Because Dracula is like we mentioned, he's not far from being pretty much a good guy.
Yeah. Like, you could like plop a feather on the scale and he'd be like, "Oh, okay, never mind. I went too far, guys. I'm going to make this right."
Yeah. Like, we were on the cusp of that. And instead, what we end up getting is, yes, it's a hellscape. And what I absolutely love about this, this is so what I compare it to, Joe, there's this indie game called Ex Mortis. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have not heard of that one.
Okay, it starts out, Ex Mortis is a Flash-based game that came out, I think, something like 15, 20 years ago, okay? The only thing that you need to take away from this is that this portal on Earth opens up, okay? And the whole reason why we know it's occurring is because the sky turns red in the distance, and the closer it gets to the screen, the closer we know that shit's about to happen. Like the demons are getting closer to you.
Oh, yeah.
So that same vibe is kind of what's happening here. Once Dracula, like, yep, I am dedicated to just hell on earth. Here we go. And I'm not saying the tone of the show is like not there yet, but I mean, once he turns that switch on, like, holy fuck. I mean, kids are getting ripped into shreds. I mean, everybody is just getting destroyed. There's people in half, I mean, thirds, fifths, they're just all over the ground. I mean, the body count as soon as he turns that switch on was immense.
Yep.
I mean, I was not expecting it.
No, it was some first blood shit going on there.
It's rough. It is rough.
Yeah, holy fuck. And
Yeah.
like even seeing like the things that are summoned on his behalf, like the night creature the first night creature you see that can talk, that thing was creepy to me. It is like this, imagine like classic looking werewolf, not wolfman, werewolf. He's got the full snout, huge fangs, huge like back and chest area, and then really thin waist, long gangly limbs, except part of his torso is just exposed bone. He has, I think, 6 eyes. His fangs glow and he can speak like fluently. And the conversation he has with the bishop in that show before he kills him, holy crap, just creepy. Like just like it's some chilly shit that goes on with that. And again, all at Dracula's will, because he is he just wants to see the world burn. Like he's done. Fuck.
He creates this absolutely horrific army.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he's sitting there, elbow on his chair, you know, grasping his forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let this end almost. Like,
yeah, he wants it to be over.
Yeah, I just that's why I think this show does such an excellent job with like never having you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, it's some of the things we've mentioned, but that's also the fact that, like, the motivations of who should be the worst character in the property. He even doesn't have it figured out.
No, he doesn't. And other things that I think this series does really well, one is the fucking animation itself. Holy crap, is this series beautiful. What they tried doing is they took some of the original drawings and artwork for the older games, which was done by Ayanami Kojima. She did this beautiful, intricate artwork. Like you would like if you see her work, you'd recognize it instantly. Like it is all of the decorum on Alucard's like this beautiful black and gold like long coat that he has, Dracula's cloak that he has. She does this beautiful job having this nice flowy picture and everything she does, and her shading is brilliant. And so they took that and like, okay, we can't do that frame by frame because we would die. Like we can't, that's just too beautiful. So they did their best to like make that toned down for the animation. And even then, when you look at the animation for this, and you think like this is toned down and it's still that good looking. Holy crap, it's beautiful.
And it plays really well into the part of just the atmosphere, right? Because the sun hasn't been out in a long time because we've created this perpetually dark environment, and so the insides of the buildings mirror that too.
Yep.
Right. So you end up having these very well designed
beautiful
interiors,
gothic interiors.
Yeah. Like everything looks the part, but then when you set the animation on top of that, you have like just incredible backdrops combined with beautiful animation, which is something, once again, was not expecting that. You know, I've seen plenty of anime because of this show, because of this program. I've watched more anime. And so I have seen anime where it's like, yep, you can just tell someone animated a mouth to move quickly so that people could talk over it, versus this was made for a specific purpose. And I can see it, I can feel it. And so, I would say the action sequences do almost feel like a dance in a lot of ways, because they're fluid. They're beautiful to watch. And then when you see how the vampires fight, and it's like the game almost, right? Like they teleport across the screens, and you see like little silhouette of them shoot across. Like, it is. You can tell there's money in it. There's money in it.
And on top of looking to Kojima's artwork for inspiration, the animation studio that made this specifically looked at a few other things for inspiration. Other huge anime titles like Akira, and Ghost in the Shell and Ninja Scroll. They even went a little American. They said they took some inspiration from Young Justice. If you recall that show, it is back. DC Universe and HBO brought it back from the dead. But another one that, to me, that I could really tell in the action sequences that they took inspiration from this was Cowboy Bebop.
See, and I have very limited. I haven't bebopped very long, but I can appreciate it because I know how many people love that show. So I'm not going to. I can't speak from experience, but I mean, holy hell yeah! I mean, this was. I guess if you're if you're like dipping your toe into anime and you started here, and then somebody showed you like lower quality produced anime, you might be sticking your nose up a little bit because I mean, holy shit, this was a high bar.
Huge bar to set. And again, like it's in that, to me, it's that same realm as Bebop, where it is basically a gateway. It's like if you can enjoy this, maybe you should just kind of steer clear of anime because if this stuff doesn't work, the mountain of work out there and just how far out there anime can get, don't get me wrong, I like anime, but shit, some of it is hard to get through. So if you can't get through these two, maybe anime is not your shtick. But
well, and that's, I think that's something about this that is a little bit more layered than a lot of other anime that I've watched. You know, I've watched plenty of anime where it's just person fights person and you know, good fights evil, and there's, you know, there's some very fast-paced music that plays, right?
Yep.
In this, as we've kind of alluded to a couple times, yes, there are good and bad forces at play here. After having watched what I've seen so far, so far the only people that I really truly didn't care for in this show, it was the church, because they, like you mentioned, they caused everything, yet blamed it on the Belmonts.
Completely. The Belmonts and the speakers.
And the speakers.
That happens right away. And when you first meet the speakers, and they're saying, "Oh, the demons weren't making it to our villages until the speakers showed up." It's like, or they weren't making it there until you burned Dracula's wife at the stake.
Well, and that's kind of the question that I had walking through this journey of the show so far, was that, you know, who truly is evil if it's really just politics at this point. And I guess we've talked about the Forge Masters a little bit here.
Yep.
I thought that's really where the true battle kind of was, because we're introduced to two of these Forge Masters, right?
Yep.
One is like gung-ho what he thinks Dracula stands for. The other one is kind of like, I'm an independent voter, I could go either way.
Yep.
I just don't want to get gnawed on. Okay. So I'll create. I'll create your army for you.
I just want to bring dead animals back to life so they can be my pets.
Yeah.
That's what he's going for.
Yeah. And that's really where I think the real struggle was in this series. Because you have, I'm sorry, I've only seen it like the one time, of course. So I've forgotten the names of the Forge Masters at this point.
Isaac is the true believer. He is the one who truly believes in Dracula and what Dracula stands for, because of you do get backstory on both of these Forge Masters, and Isaac's is definitely the more tragic of the two. So Dracula saves him really from the life that he was living. And when Isaac sees that this is not only like in the beauty that this man actually, this is the first being that's ever cared for him at all. Isaac was discarded in his youth by his parents, by the people who eventually would come to own him. Everything, like he would try to do nice things for people and just completely get fucking shit on for it. And Dracula was the first person who rewarded him for the deeds that he was doing. And so he has respect for him for that. But then there's also, he sees like the knowledge of the ages that Dracula has, that Dracula himself is not just a being of wrath, but he is intelligent. He's more than what anyone gives him credit for, and Isaac sees that and respects it.
He sees it and respects it, but the part that I always was struggling with here was it's like, yeah, okay, I understand that these two obviously they're friends, you know, they can have beers, you can call him up late at night and he'll pick up.
They will.
But you can see Dracula is like he's checked out.
Yeah.
Like he started this war with humanity and he's like, you know, bro, I just want to sleep and watch Netflix. Like I don't want to, and then no pun intended, it's on Netflix. But not a sponsor. But like seriously, like that's the part that I was watching and going, you know, it's clear to me that the other vampires are getting this. But Isaac is like not. He's not getting it at all.
Yeah.
And so his sense of dedication to who he thought Vlad was continues past, unfortunately, his spoiler alert, past his time on this show, because we do lose Dracula, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And I mean, I was just gonna say that the show doesn't stick with Dracula. It cycles back around to him.
Yeah.
So even when Dracula's, which again, he is a major story arc through basically the first 2 seasons, because he makes it before his arc is done. Like season 2 only has like an episode left after Dracula's story is done. But yeah, and honestly, we've been talking a lot of the Dracula arc of this, but I don't think that's even the best part of this show. Like seasons 3 and 4, I think are the best part of Castlevania. And it is, again, you're going beyond the original story. That the video game set up, because the video game ends with you beating Dracula and then it's just done. But here we carry on beyond that initial struggle with Dracula, and now we see a world with Dracula removed from it. Not gonna say how he's removed. He's just removed from the picture. So you have other vampires struggling for power in it. You have, what does Alucard do now that he this was a huge thing for him, was defeating his father. And
he reminds me of Tarantino when it says, like, you know, here I am on my day off and I'm excited, and then it shows him just standing around different rooms in the house. Like that's what that's what he does at first.
That's what he does. Yeah, he's just hanging out. He makes little dolls of Trevor and Sypha, and he's talking for them, and it's hilarious. Like this initial Alucard hanging out by himself, it's like, yeah, this is a guy who has a big house all to himself. It almost reminds you of like Garden State.
Oh,
where he's driving like his golf cart around his massive mansion to get from one place to the next. And that's what he's doing, hanging out there.
He's legit teleporting around the plot, like where the castle ends up being. And he's just speeding around it. And I mean, he finds hunters eventually who are trying to catch up with him and all that. But like, but yeah, he's like legit exploring the space. Like he's just checking out the castle. And I mean, that was such an unexpected turn.
I was really hoping that we would go one. I mean, it can't, because it's again, the music is too beautiful to do this. But I was really hoping we go like a full on Green Day moment where Alucard would be like, "I was alone. I was all by myself. No one was looking." He's just this weird bachelor weirdness that is Alucard for the first part of it. But when I say it's weird, it's not uncomfortably awkward and boring. Like it is fun watching him adapt to his new life.
Yeah, it's endearing. It's endearing to see him do that, because that's one of the things that this property, or at least this iteration of it, it really it does what a lot of vampire lore doesn't do, which is vampires don't have a sense of humanity. That's why they're vampires, because they gave that up to become, you know,
immortal bloodsucker.
Yeah. Whereas in this case, it's like, no, vampires are still, you know, thinking, relatively emotional people who I mean, I say people, but they're dead. But I mean, they're thinking, they're plotting, they're they're weighing consequences.
Yep.
It's
So,
not quite the same thing.
no, some of them are fucking killing and making everything into boats because they're fucking Viking vampires. I like boats. What am I supposed to do? I'm a Viking.
I gotta say that the cast of vampires, they do kind of come and go pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, but there are some very, very notable people playing them, though.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool that they managed to call in a lot of favors. So I mean, I was trying to pick out like Malcolm McDowell right away. Like he was the one I wanted to look for because, I mean, come on, guy's got one of those recognizable voices.
Easily.
Yeah.
Well, even Dracula himself, the voice actor there, I didn't recognize him by name. I recognized him when he screamed, and I'm like, that motherfucker's in Uncharted.
Ooh.
He's the main villain of Uncharted 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Wow.
Crazy ass Russian war criminal.
Yeah.
Like, I know that guy. I beat him to Shambhala. Son of a bitch. But yeah, I mean, when you look at, like, again, the supporting cast of just voices here, you've got Jason Isaacs of, again, Harry Potter fame. He was fucking Malfoy himself. Not Draco, but Papa Malfoy.
Yeah. Lucius
Malfoy. He is in Star Trek Discovery. He's also that son of a bitch who rides a horse into a church in The Patriot.
Oh yeah. Tavington. Damn him, damn that man. Yes.
Other than that, in season 4, you do meet a ship captain who is voiced by Lance Reddick of John Wick fame. He's the guy who operates the front desk, and also is just kind of a badass in John Wick.
That's right.
Yeah, it's 2. It's in the second. Oh, hold on, second or third. I think it's. Fuck, I'm trying to remember it now. It's killing me. But basically, where John Wick and Lance Reddick's character have to defend the castle again, not the castle, defend the Continental against other things. Yeah, basically, badass. And then Dracula's wife, Lisa Tepes, is voiced by Emily Swallow, who is the Darkness from Supernatural, and is I forget her official title in Mandalorian. Is she the Forge Master of the Mandalorian?
I'm trying to the Armorer. Is that what she's
Armorer?
called?
That's
Armorer?
what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe the Armorer. Yeah, but she is the head of not Coven or Sect, but she's the head of the group of Mandalorians that Mando is a part of. She's his boss, and we see her do some stormtroopers really dirty with a couple of hammers in season 1 with that. And then, of course, the man who I first hung out with in Underworld, good old Bill. I said Nighy wrong. I said Nighy, and that's not right.
It's Nighy. Yeah, there's no L.
Nighy.
No, it's okay.
Bill Nighy.
I doubt he's like. I mean, there's a chance he could be listening and like shaking his fist.
I hope so, because just for the fact that I know I've made Bill Nighy shake his fist at me, that's enough for me. Like, I would like his respect, but if I've gained his anger, I will take that.
just see him in front of a fireplace, they just did not.
But so he is Saint Germain in this, who is one. I love Saint Germain just for the fact of the way he's written and the lines he delivers. He just basically writes everyone off as beneath him. He references toilet paper to the judge in one scene.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's toilet paper. It's Chinese. You should fucking look into it because you're disgusting. And then walks away from him.
Well, okay, so that's another good point about this series that we've talked about a little bit too. There are so many different personalities at play in this universe, and not all of them are like, high moral fiber.
No.
But they also seemingly all have this sense of humor that remains believable somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you managed to contain that and streamline it across all these different actors and actresses that are involved, because they really do all kind of take this on in different ways. When you mentioned Lance Reddick, when you first meet him as the captain, like he's almost like tongue in cheek talking to Isaac.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like this guy's a pirate, and he's seen a lot of shit. So to him, he's like, well, I mean, I could go in any time. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But but he's having the kind of banter with Isaac that you would have with a friend, where you've tested them enough to know that you can get away with the shit you're saying.
Exactly. And that is, I mean, Grant, yeah, you may be a pirate captain, but this guy has like an undead army like right behind him that it will listen to everything he says. Legit undead army behind him. And this guy's just like, yeah, fucking whatever. I'm gonna call you an idiot when you're an idiot.
Yep, he's got the army behind him like fucking Billy Zane backing up Zoolander. and they're terrifying to look at. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. Like I was afraid, and like, fucking Isaac's gonna kill me through the screen because of what you're saying. Like, what the hell, man?
Once again, uneasiness.
Yeah, completely. And then even like you look at the judge, who Jason Isaacs was playing. And have you gotten to the judge yet?
No, no, not quite. No.
I was trying to remember if he came in towards the tail end of season 3 or if he's mostly season 4. But he is another character that you meet, you really enjoy watching him unfold. And again, like you said, like they're all these characters are layered so well, where you can tell that the judge has pretty high moral fiber, but it is his own morality, because not giving it away, the judge does have some pretty dark shit going on that you might not suspect right away, or you may think that maybe he's just a pompous ass. He's got something a lot worse going on that you will figure out as the series goes. So if you haven't reached the judge yet, look forward to that part of the story arc. And you first meet him because of the adventures of Belnatus and Belmont. Belmont doesn't get top billing or first billing because he's the one driving the wagon. But yeah, basically, so while Alucard is now all by himself in the castle, these two are going out and adventuring and slaying monsters and saving people. The family business.
And you knew the kids were going to get together too.
You knew they were.
Yeah, they really cranked that up quite a bit. Because in just the gravity of the first 2 seasons, which, let me say, I was concerned that it was going to be hard to move past just that epic of like, Dracula fighting Alucard and like the struggle of the family, even before, his wife is murdered and everything. Like, I thought that was way too much shoe to fill for a show that early on. But they, like you've mentioned, some of these new relationships that kind of come out of it in season 3. And then, like Belnades and Belmont, like, it's fun to watch. It's compelling. It somehow takes this like absolutely cranked up to 11 despair, and now we can actually, it's like, hey, now we're killing boars again.
Yeah,
we're a little XP.
Yeah, we get to play the game.
Yeah. So it's a complete shift. Even though some of the politics don't exactly change a whole lot, in the rest of the rest of the universe. But I mean, at least for a little bit here, we get to, not that we didn't get character development earlier on, but I really do feel like the plot moves a bit more because of character, and not just because of, violence and this person needs to die because of X, right? Like it's a little bit different storytelling arc.
Absolutely. And that really does come, I want to say come to a head, but like when you see more of Carmela's backstory and you get her allies in her home country with Striga, Morana, and Lenore, like looking at all of their characters, like in the short time that we get to hang out with them get developed, like some of the best part of the series comes after Dracula has left us. But
yeah,
speaking of things leaving us, the show did get canceled. And it was for a couple of reasons. The biggest one being is that it's basically, if you're unaware, Netflix basically has a formula. When a show hits 4 episodes or 4 seasons, around 30 episodes, they tend to just get rid of it. unless it's like, your Great British Baking Show, because that's everyone's gonna fucking watch that for forever. And that's not me lamenting about it. I fucking love the Great British Baking Show. I'm gonna watch it forever. But that seems to happen. Like their idea is we need to have content that doesn't keep people around but brings in new people too. And if you haven't been watching the show when it hits its 4th season yet, you're probably not going to start. So that's why shows tend to disappear around that mark. Another reason why I went was because of one of the writers. The lead writer who was on this, who is a prominent comic book writer, Warren Ellis, had quite a few complaints of sexual harassment and misconduct over the years. I think it was over 60 cases brought against him. So between that and again, like we just hit season 4, I think we're going to be done here. But despite that, we hit basically the mark where Netflix calls it a day on a series. There is going to be a spinoff.
Well, I mean, that's encouraging, at least.
Yeah.
I actually was a little confused about looking at the year of Castlevania, like when it released, and then the seasons, because I didn't look this far into it yet. And I was wondering, like, is this one of those things where it takes a little bit longer to produce, so there's some time in between, and so that's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
But I guess it is kind of nice that there is a spinoff, because just because of the fact that these are immortal entities, there's a little more runway you could explore with origins and all that. So I mean, I guess I'm not as disappointed as I would say with like a Firefly or a almost human, where you got one little taste of it and then it's gone.
That's true. And I guess also what's nice is you do get closure for your 3 main characters with Alucard, Trevor, and Sypha. Like you do have some closure there. It's like, yep, I am comfortable with the story with these characters being done. And Orson Welles, I mean, you can go off of what he said, is like, if you want a happy ending, it all just depends on where you stop telling your story. And while you could certainly have more things happen with these 3, I think this is a good place to stop telling their story. And we're going to jump further ahead in Earth's timeline to where it's just time for the bourgeoisie, the French aristocracy, to come down. And we're going into the French Revolution with Richter Belmont. And that's the series that we're going to be getting next.
I'm not upset about that. I think it's a perfectly interesting backdrop to kind of put things on. Yeah, let's bring it on. I'm ready for it. I mean, I got to finish up the season 4, but you know.
And spoiler alert, for those who you've never played a Castlevania game, Dracula's pretty much always the fucking bad guy at the very end. So I'm guessing the villain of this story is probably Dracula.
Yeah, I'm guessing he farms it out to somebody else.
I mean, given what they did with the series so far, I think it makes sense. It'd be nice to have Dracula like, you know what? Someone else be the asshole this time.
I mean, seriously though, if you look at it, that is both the reason I think for a lot of the issues in this show, and also the reason why we even had 4 seasons was because of that fact. Like Dracula's not doing anything anymore. He's supposedly this bastion of evil.
Yep.
But he's almost not a bad guy.
No, he kind of like, I was living alone in my baller house in the woods, unbothered, and then motherfuckers had to wake up one morning and choose violence.
Yeah, seriously, man. It's like Gran Torino, but with Dracula. Yeah. Like, come on. Get off my lawn.
Yep, he's just sitting there with his fucking hose.
So, Joe, is there really even a curse of Dracula? Because he really just feels like how I do on a Friday. I just got out of work, and then someone decides they want to visit me for the weekend. Like, it's just a thin line between losing your mind.
Maybe that's the curse. It's not that Dracula has cursed us. We're just kind of constantly cursing Dracula with our existence.
Wow. So basically, Dracula just looks at the people of Wallachia and he's like, I'm sorry I burdened you with my friendship.
It's exactly it. He's like, I was just trying to be in my damn castle alone for once. You people can't leave me alone. And I even take a break. I will leave and come back every 100 years thinking maybe it'll be fine. Nope. Mistake every time.
That's why he moves the castle.
Yeah, he's just trying to get away.
Yeah. Well, we hope you enjoyed this exploration into the Netflix series Castlevania. If you're one of the too long didn't read folks, we just couldn't quite wrap our head around how Dracula was actually the bad guy in some ways. So
yeah, I think he's kind of the bigger victim of the story here. But I digress. This is for you to watch and you to make a judge for yourself.
Yep, and that's why the comment section is there. Feel free to duke it out and let us know what you think. Maybe we got it wrong. Who knows?
I mean, it would not be the first time. No one's ever accused, I think, me of being a genius. I don't know about Mark, but
No. Yeah. Well, you know, at the very least, Castlevania is a great story. And speaking of someone who tells the greatest stories, we're going to be joined next week by an incredibly awesome guest. You may know him as Mark from The Room. He throws a football, a mean football.
A very mean football. And sometimes he's even wearing fingerless gloves in the park throwing a mean football. Or he's having a conversation in his car using a cordless house phone.
Yes. That's right. We are joined by Greg Sestero, author of The Disaster Artist, and star of The Room, Best Friends. And yeah, I mean, I still can't believe that we had the chance to talk with him. I know obviously you couldn't make it, Joe, but Chelsea and I were more than happy to sit down with the legend.
Yeah, I'm definitely saddened that I didn't get a chance to talk with him, but who knows, maybe our paths will cross again. But if they don't, you should definitely listen to this one time we definitely talked to him.
Yeah, it's honestly it's really kind of surreal in a lot of ways. I mean, and I talk about this a little bit, how I met Greg years ago, but it was really fun to kind of hear what he's up to, and we don't want to blow too much of the conversation here for you. But ahead of next week, we do want to let you know that Greg's actually got a new project called Miracle Valley, which will be in theaters next year. So stay tuned for that. We talk a little bit about it. But yeah, dude, it's an absolute great time with someone from one of my favorite movies. So yeah, looking forward to it. We can't wait to show everybody, or rather have you listen in.
Yeah, so definitely tune in to the main episode next week, and maybe we'll figure out how many times we went back and forth across the Golden Gate Bridge. Or maybe we won't, but the way to figure out is to keep on dissecting.